Hello, and welcome to Live Coding, the sample solution of the server-side rendering for React. Let's jump into things. So here I am, and I'm remembering that my first task is let's get the HTML of the app on the get. And so this is where I uncomment out the first skip test. So let's start to have a look at server tests. And oops, let's jump over to a GCO-B solution. Okay, now down here, let's get rid of that. And then top here, I'm going to run yarn test. Been quite enjoying the yarn testing when it's got watch going, and it's pretty nifty how any file that's affected by the changed in get is run for you. So it's yeah, I've been finding it a good way of managing a large test suite. And so here you'll see that it is server test has changed. It is only running that file. So if I press O, it's only running server test, whereas if I press A, it's going to run all my tests as well. So you can test your whole coverage pretty well. There's also some nifty things you can do when you use regular expressions to choose which tests you want to run. So it's yeah, nicely optimized for large test suites. And yeah, there's a bit of a jiggle down here as it was firing up electrons behind the scenes. All right, so now this test, let's have a look at the test. It goes to the page, it gets the inner HTML, and then it runs it through Cheerio, and it expects it to have 3 LIs. So there's 3 LI tags on this page, and right now it's seeing none. So if I go to my server, and here we've got res send, and we're just sending the render React. Right, now I need to pull together the code for React, so it's rendering React on the server side. And I found that the Redux docs for server-side rendering, really good way to it. So if you want to figure it out, just go read these docs. It's a good sort of starting point for it. And I didn't mind the way they did things, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. But the main only real thing you need to worry about is this render to string. React DOM server render to string, and then we're going to give it a provider and an app, and that gives us the string we want, and then we send it back. All the rest of it's just kind of plumbing. So let's see what we need to get here. So we're going to need to get React. I'm going to need provider. Now, what else are we going to need? We're going to need our app. So here, there's Express. Let's get our code and import app. Now that is app1, I think. Server. Now, where did I put the app? I think it was server components. All right, and so I'm going to need the app, I'm going to need the provider. Now I'm also going to need my reducers. So here, I've made a store.js, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to leave this for my server-side store. And instead, I'm going to just, from here, I'm going to get a create store. And then, oh, well, that's not correct. That provider, that's React Redux. And this will be from Redux itself. Then I'm going to need the reducers, and the reason I'm doing this is so that I can start to treat the stores differently, which will help me out a bit later on, I think. So I'm going to go, I'm going to need my reducers. So I've got the reducers, I've got provider, the store. That should be enough to start going, okay, let's make ourselves a new store. I'm going to go const store equals create store, and this is going to be reducers and in an initial state. And then we're going to go, let's go HTML, and this is going to equal, now I forgot the main one up here is this one here. We need to get render to string. Let's get all that separate from the Express stuff. And yeah, that's a good model to just format a bit nicer. Okay, so render to string, and now down here, it's just let's drop in some React. So here we're going to say, well, we need the provider. That's going to need the store. And then after the provider, we're going to have an app. Okay, so HTML is just rendering the store, and then down here, we're going to send back the HTML. So a bit of plumbing to get it all going. And down here, I just want to test. Okay, so now I'm all green so far. Oops, server test, great. All my tests are green, server test is passing. So that means I'm sending back the LI. So if I want to have a look at this, I'm going to go yarn start, and let's just double check in my own browser. And because Nightmare's pretty good, but I found it's a bit hard to get debugging information out of it. So I do like to test it in the browser as well. And now that we've got Webpack and we've got NodeMon, so let's have a look here. Let's just fire localhost 1000. And I've got myself React. But you'll notice that on this server here, it's not proper React, it's really just the HTML. So if you view source on this, it doesn't have the full page or anything like that. And most importantly, it doesn't really have any JavaScript at all. It's just got some HTML. I'm just really sending down a partial snippet of HTML. And not that useful, but hey, that's step one. So let's kill that. And here I'm going to go step one and back React HTML. All right, step two. So in step two, ensure the app still functions. So this is where I've got the HTML, I actually need to make these delete buttons function. And the key thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to send back the JavaScript. So if you look in the package.json, then when I'm webpacking or in the Webpack config, then I'm basically taking the JavaScript and I'm dropping it into bundle.js in public. So what I'm going to do here is let's start to go this render to string. And instead of sending back the HTML, I'm going to do this, get a template string going, and I am going to still send back this HTML, but I might drop it in a body tag like so, and let's do this. Now here I am going to, I remember that when I loaded up the React app in this one, index.js, you'll see how it is rendering it in a getElementById route. So in my HTML, I'm going to make sure that we've got a div like this. And then down here, let's put in a script. Source equals, now I'm just going to make that public folder public with express static. So I'm going to go bundle.js. Yeah, and I'm going to go type text JavaScript. Okay, so that's better HTML. I've got a body tag now. I'm putting the rendered HTML inside of an ID of root so that when React loads up, it is now going to find the right thing to reactify. And then down here, I'm going to send back the bundle.js. So the only thing I should need to do here is all first off, let's go to the server test. And let's get rid of the skip. And then down here, let's start to make that public. So I'm going to go app.use express.static domain. So this is public. Great. So I'm going to make that one public. And because it's domain, I need to put a slash like that. So that should give me a public folder, which is rendering my bundle.js. When I draw this here, this should go and get that and load up as JavaScript. Here it's saying, hey, my test is saying I can delete it to do. And if we want to see that for ourselves, we can go down here. And so now I've started to do a bit more than I was doing before. Before I'm sending back the HTML, and I'm sending back a bundled version of the whole React app so that it's pulled down here. And if we go look at this, I'm loading the page. Great, now we're listening. And now I'm Reactified. And you'll see here that we're deleting stuff. So one of the things though to notice is if you go to look at the console, React should be giving us a nice helpful message, which is saying, hey, render, it's not going to last much longer. So target node has markup rendered by React, but there are unrelated nodes as well. So if you look at this, and now if I fix this, get rid of the white space, now we render again. I believe in you, Nodebon. Bit sleepy. And now here, see this? React DOM render. So React has noticed that I've sent down server-side code, and it's essentially in version 15 and before, you used to call render here. But now there's a new function, which is called hydrate. And they've made it backwards compatible, so you don't need to worry about it too much. But here, if you're sending down pre-rendered code from the server, this will help your performance a bit and get rid of that warning, because in version 17 it won't be functioning as well. And that's the last thing to do. To basically, when you do server-side things, use hydrate. Okay, and now that should have got rid of that warning message. All right, so that's pretty much step 2. And I'm going to say reactifying the server-side HTML. Okay, so that's all pretty well and good. Now let's look at the next one. Step 3, shuffle the tasks on the server. So shuffling, the reason I'm shuffling here is that at the moment, I'm sending down code, some HTML, and then React and Redux are loading up, and they're not going to really care what that HTML is, because Redux is going to load up by its default. And if you look at the reducers for Redux, so if we go to the task reducer, here you'll see, okay, it's got its initial state. So no matter what I've rendered in the HTML, this is going to rewrite it with this initial state. So now this test is to say, hey, let's just mess with this initial state on the server, change it to something else, and then we're going to make sure that our client-side code respects the initial state that we set, and it doesn't just rewrite it for us. So let's go to our server, and let's do the first step. So the first step is let's mess with our initial state. So down here, I see that store is create reducers, and I'm just making an empty thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called const shuffled store. And I'm going to say this is create store. I'm going to make a different store, reduces, but I'm going to say whatever the state of that store is. So store here, I'm just going to go tasks, and I'm going to go store dot get state dot tasks. I'm pulling the tasks off the previous store, but I'm going to pass it to a shuffle function. And this shuffle function, this was in utils. So here I've got shuffle, and there's a fancy name for that algorithm. It's a good shuffling one. And here we go for shuffle. So I'm going to import shuffle from utils. Let's put it, I'm going to put it here. So now that should be creating a store, but what I'm doing is I'm getting the tasks, and I'm getting the tasks from the previous store I had, and I'm shuffling them. So now if we do something like this, console.log shuffled store, and I'm going to get state from it. And now here, I'm going to get a shuffled store. So here you'll see, every time the tasks run, they're shuffling the different ones on the server. But if we go and look at our server, start. Come on, server, I believe in you. Great. All right. So now if we look at this, so here we reloaded and it looked like the tasks were that. And why is that restarting? Okay. All right, so it's profit by wombats. Now see have that delay there. We go here, it's shuffled, but it's reloading on us. It's messing around because we get the static HTML back, then React fires up, and React just relaunches Redux with the brand new state, regardless of what we rendered here. So what we're going to do is we're going to send down the store or the state from the store that we're using to render this, and we're going to tell our client-side Redux that we want it to use the same thing. So here, I'm going to go above this one here, I'm going to go script. I'm just going to drop it on the Windows object. So window, initial state like this. And we're going to say equals, and I'm going to go JSON, stringify, and here it's going to be shuffled store.getState. So whatever that state looks like, and we're stringifying it, and we're going to close our script tag. Okay, how's that looking? Script, JSON, stringify, double parentheses. Okay, and I'm dropping that on the initial state so that in my client-side code, we can look for this initial state object and use that to pre-populate Redux. And that's one of the reasons why I separated out my server-side initialization of the store and my client-side initialization. Because now if I go to source index here, and actually no, we're going to go to store. So here, I'm going to say, hey, reduces store, so let initial state. Now I'm putting a if window here because Nightmare doesn't respect the window that well. And so Nightmare isn't great for testing this kind of thing because it doesn't let you drop things onto the window object. And here I'm going to go initial state equals window. And then the docs also recommend that you do this window dot this, which is basically to say, hey, clean it up so you can tell the garbage collector you don't need that anymore. Then down here, in our create store, we're passing in the initial state, which was sent to us from the server-side code. And if we have this here, we're going to have to wait the dozen years or so it takes for this to rebuild and to relaunch. I may be exaggerating. All right. And here, now if I refresh the page, and all right, so let's see what's going on here. Did I just get 3 shuffled things in a row? There we go. So it is functioning fine. And here's the shuffled order on the server. And it has been, no, it wasn't respected, was it? Okay, so that looks like, let's debug this a bit more. So first off, I want to look at the HTML here. All right, so I've got the script, initial state, tasks, profit by wombats. Okay, so that's correct. That's the random order. So initially it was here, so this is definitely different. Now, create store is this. I'm not convinced it's just not caching the bundle properly. Okay, so initial state, I wonder if my delete's messing it up. Or could just be a vanilla old typo. which my code complete with, at least make it consistent. Okay, initial state is now an array, and now the randomized code for my server is going to be maintained on the code here. So it seems quite consistent in its insistence of giving me the same thing in a row. Look, what are the odds? This algorithm is meant to be like a flash or best shuffling algorithm out there. All right, anyway, so you can see that the code that's rendered on the server is passed through to the client, and Redux on the client is respecting that. So I'm going to call that it's done. Again, manual testing, because Nightmare's not so good at testing this kind of thing. So here we're going to go to store index. Oh, we don't need that. Well, we're going to get rid of this console log. All right, so now I am rendering it. I'm passing the initial store down, and React is going. So that is full sort of server-side rendering going here. And step 3, passing down the React Redux store. Now, one thing to be aware of here, big security hole right here, that we're just sending down JSON. If this store had malicious JSON into it, that is just going to be executed in a person's browser. So in the resources for this challenge, particularly step 6 is going to be ensure your server's protected against that, but definitely check out these security considerations and more on security, because anytime you're doing this, there's big vulnerabilities. We'll get to them in a bit. So the next thing I want to do is, and these last 3 steps are really to point out the how to do the vulnerability, and also it's a way of pointing out how you can mirror the state onto the Redux side. The first thing is, let's extend our React app and let's make it so that we can create tasks as well. So I'm going to go here, let's go server, I'm going to go to, let's start with the components. So in my task list, I want to be able to add a React app. So I'm going to get stuff like import, I'm going to call it add task. And now I want the connected component here. And I'm going to get this from, doesn't exist yet. I would probably want to make it. And then we want to get the test for it. So here we're going to import React. No, so I don't want to export default because I'm following this pattern of let's export the unconnected component. So I'm going to call this add class. So up here, I'm going to get React, and then I'm going to get component. And then and then up the top here, I'm also, so add task is going to be connected. And down here, it's going to be export default. So that's the pattern that I've been following in React recently. And that means that here, I'm going to put a render method on this. And this is just going to be return like this. Okay, so I've got myself an add task component, and I am going to go to add task test. Okay, so here I am going to need import React. Now, so what's the first test we're going to do here? I'm going to say that when I type in a name and I hit a button, I want it to call a prompt that I send it. I'm going to say it calls add prop when button clicked. Something like that. I don't need anything there. So here, the first thing is, let's go, I'm doing just shallow testing of these components because I really just want to test this component. So wrapper, shallow, and let's go add task with this. And I'm going to need to get const add equals jest function. And here we're going to go add equals add like that, because what I'm going to be doing is expect jest, expect add and called. And I want it to be called with whatever I type into the thing. So that's the first part here. Now I'm just going to go like that. Now, that's how I want it set up. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is something like I need to type in a task. So I'm going to be like wrapper, let's find something. So I'm going to want an input type of text, task name, and here. So inside of that input, so I'm going to go input name equals name. I'm going to find that, and I'm going to go simulate. So this is going to be a change. Second parameter of simulate is the event. So here it's going to be the target, and I'm going to have the name of the target's name, and the value is that kind of thing. So I'm going to eat spaghetti is the task that I'm adding. So that means that here, and then I'm going to want to have another one which is around and value equals add, and then I want to click that one, and then I want to have my thing called with spaghetti. So test-driven is kind of, I don't mind to kind of write a test and the thing in parallel, but this is such a standard pattern. I know exactly what I want to be building here. So now we want to find the input, and we're going to go type equals submit, and close it, type simulate, click. And now I expect this to have been called with eat spaghetti. So that would be the way I would test out this component. Now, over here, tests are taking a while, don't want to be running all of them. So I'm going to queue that. Now, what I want to see is just show me filter the regex. So I want add task. So I just want to run this one test. Great, so much quicker. Then I can hit enter and it will run that test again. Okay, so now up here, let's start to build our connected component. So, all right, constructor. Got a name here. Handle change, and then function. Need to get an e tag on this, or event object. So this dot set state. For those of you building connected React components, this should be fairly second nature. Set state, and we want to have e.target.name, and I want that to be e.target.value. And then down here, we need to get a handle change on this. And this, so that's going to take an E. So by putting in that function, we don't need to worry about binds. And now I'm going to put a value of equals state.name. So I can start to see, hey, did I mess up anything there? Right, let's go console.log wrapper dot and HTML. Okay, shallow is not defined. And hey, add tasks not to be defined either. I want the unconnected component. Okay, and here we can say, oh look, it's got the input and it's got it to get into it. So I know the code's all good from here, but I found a bunch of errors by stopping to test rather than just plowing on. So let's get rid of the console log. And now I want to say, okay, I want to go handle, submit, and then down here, we're going to go this, on click on submit, equals this dot end. I might, oh no, it's fine. Okay, so this dot handle submit, pass it down just in case I want it. Down here, we are going to go this dot props dot. Now I want to send back spaghetti, so I'm going to be going add was the prop that I passed down, and this dot state dot name is the spaghetti part. He is not defined. That's right. Oh, big mistake. Every time I render the page, that's being hit. Okay, so expected it to have been called this.props.add, this.handle submit. Now I think it's because I'm simulating a click event on it rather than a submit event on it. So that'd be good enough for now. I could put a form here and put a submit on it so that the hitting enter in the input looks a bit nicer, but that should be enough for now. And the last thing I'll do here, and I'm not going to test this one straight away, but function map dispatch to props, that takes dispatch, and inside of here I'm going to return, and I am going to do add, and I am going to say that's a function, and here this takes a task name, and this is going to be, we're going to call dispatch, we're going to call add, we're going to call task name. Add doesn't exist yet, so we need to make it so. Import add from, and I'm going to drop this in reduces notice actions. Make a new actions, tasks, yep. So I'm going to get add from there, and I'm going to dispatch it, and down the bottom here, connect this up, undefined map dispatch. No, redo. Okay, great. Okay, so that's an add function up here. So now let's go and make that exist. So first thing is actions, task, task name, I think it was. And here I'm going to go and do this. Okay, so that's the name. And so that's my action. Now let's go into the reducer. Let's make sure our reducer works. So tasks. And all right, so I need to get something which goes add to task. Now I'm going to grab this, but I'm going to change it around. Let's just do it more simpler like that. And here action is going to equal add 3. And then down here, the expect will be the same. So I am adding a task now at the top where I've got remove to get the action imported into my reducer. Now down here, I have got the task. Now see over here, it's still matching my regular expression. So let's get this, let's get P, and now I want to do that one. Okay, so this is a failing test. So one expects 1, 2, 3, it's getting 1, 2. So I haven't written an add function yet, and that's a good failing. And yeah, it's failing the way I want. So let's make this go here. Case, add task. So for those from bootcamp, this is pretty good revision of React Redux. If now, I don't need to do an if, I'm just going to return the state with the rest appended onto it. So I'm just going to go return state action.name like this. Click. Shouldn't need the break. I wonder if my linter will complain. Yeah, no, good. Okay, so that is the add task. So that I know that the action and the reducer, they work fine, the state is good. And I haven't yet tested out the code inside of add task here, which connected it all up. So this bit down here, which was map dispatch to proc, this stuff here is not tested yet. So I'm going to test that manually. And let's go to the task list. And here we can go, I'm going to drop it above the UL. So now I've got that in, and now my local server. Okay, seems to have added something. But I'm noticing I don't like this, that there is, that should be gone. So let's go to add task test. So there's something I don't like. So now I'm going to be like, I want expect wrapper.state dot name to be, I want that state to be empty after I've hit the add. Now, no, it's got server test. That's too much. Let's go here, and I want to see. Great. So now it's failing because I haven't zeroed out the state. So I'm going to go add task. So after handle submit, let's knock that off. Okay. So no, it's probably built fast enough. So notice how I refreshed the page then, and that was disappearing. So test this. Okay. Adding things, deleting things in business. Now I could write a nightmare test for that. Well, so one thing you might want to try is writing your own nightmare test to make sure the ad works. I won't do that for now though. Keep trucking on to get this finished. So you'll notice at the moment, if I refresh the page, well, first off, let's commit that. And one good thing about this with jest watching is it makes you commit often, because then it'll rerun the test that you've only changed. So if I go here, I'm going to say adding a task. Step, well, what step are we on? We are on step 4. Okay, so that's step 4. Now up here, if I press O, it's like, hey, no tests found, because that's when you press O, it only runs the tests which have based off files which are changed since the last commit. Okay, save a copy of the state to the server. So this is what I want to have happen is now if I type this and I add it, and I do something else, one thing you can do really nicely with server-side rendering is, hey, if I refresh this page, why doesn't it remember the state as it was? And that's what I want to build out. So you can build a bit of memory into your server and a bit of persistence. You can also really easily build out like back buttons. Back buttons used to be a nightmare to build, but Redux comes along and you can just reverse the state one chunk at a time. Build up an array of previous states and you've got yourself an undo function for an app virtually, no matter how complex. You need to watch out for side effects in your data, but undo buttons and back buttons are now as a light to build with Redux. So what I want to do here is let's get ourselves, first off, every time the state changes, I'm just going to post it down to the server. I could mirror every action and do that, but I'm just going to do the quick and dirty option to start with for this. So let's go down to our store. Now, the store, I can subscribe to this store. So the store is made here. So let's go const store equals this thing. And then here, I'm just going to go store.subscribe. This function is going to be called every time the store changes state. And I'm going to export it just as I used to. But now I'm going to go up here and let's get ourselves super agent. Request from super agent. So, and down here, let's start to post some stuff. And, oh, do I have super agent? Oh, didn't complain. So this is where I'm going to go request and I'm going to go .post. Now let's send this to save state, something like that. And I'm going to send, and here's where I'm going to go store.getState, like that. And then I'm just going to put an end. And I'm not going to do anything with the response. I'm just going to throw it down there. And you could check to see if it saves it and display things or dispatch actions or whatnot. So that will be enough. Now, that is posting down save states. Now if I jump over to my server, here, I'm going to make a new one. And let's put it up here. App.post, save state. And I'm going to console.log rec.body.state. I think I need to get a body parser going, so I just want to check that that's true. Also need to remember how to write functions properly. So you see Nightmare's pretty good at testing this stuff here, and it can start to get the console logs firing. So if I go up to this, and all right, what is here? I think super agent request. Interesting. Did I mess up something? The one bit of code I don't have good tests for. Port request from super agent. Let's see what's wrong with that. The code super agent running properly. I think I would have busted out on While I'm waiting, I can go to the store and get rid of that console log. Bloody deconstructor. Okay. Okay, so that's sent it down, XHR, and that is now on the network post, and it's getting a 500 server error, not applying anything to it. But here, it's not really probably stated undefined. So yeah, down in my server, I have got myself a rec.body, but hey, what's the error we've got here? Import body parser. And then down here, I'm going to drop in at the top. Whoop, now that's undefined because in my store, I'm going to do something. I'm just sending down this, so it's going to send it all down as body. I'm going to just isolate it away, like that. That means down here, and look at that. Up here, we've got tasks by Wombats is being sent down. That's after the delete is hit, so one of them's missing. And now, that means that I've got the state. So what I'm going to do here is I've got a store. I'm going to get this store, and I'm going to create it about here. So I'm pulling that out of the code because down here I've got a store, and I'm going to make it a const. I'll make it a let. And then down here, I'm just going to rewrite that. I'm going to do something like store equals create store reduces and rec.body.state. So the state I was given, use that to create a new store. Let's go res.send status to 1. And now I don't need to console log anymore. Then that means, so I create the store first time, shuffle it here, but then down here I'm going to get it and I'm going to shuffle it each time here. So that means that as I play with stuff and I go test, we add something. Now that I've posted that down to save state, oh, didn't seem happy. I was just texting, I was just being real cool. It was just like, yeah, no, I don't need that E. But unfortunately, the computer was not cool and it rejected my suggestion. Let's try again. What 3000 is no. Close enough. I think the magic's intact. All right, so now we go test. And we've done that. 201, so the save state got sent down. I'm keeping my console clean. Now if I refresh, the state's in there. It's shuffling it because, hey, that's what the step does. I can add things. Each time they're being posted down, I refresh. It now remembers where I am. Now, if I restart the app, the server, it's going to go away. So I'm not persisting it any more than the memory of the express instance, but we have now got ourselves a persistent Redux app. So I think that's one of the key things that you can start to do when you have a nice Redux on both the server and the client, is you can start to send actions or states across, build up history, build up a lot of, you can start to do a lot of things, whether it's just tracking your users' behavior and seeing what they're doing on the site, or whether it is getting some diagnostics, or whether it is building them a back button or a persistence button, or that. You ever had that thing happen where you type something into a big text box and you refresh the page and it goes, or your browser crashes? This is the sort of feature you could build to stop that ever happening for your users. So that is step 5, is save a copy of the state on the server. So mirroring the state to the server. Nearly there. Now, let's do this, save mirror state. Okay, last one. So this is where ensure your server is protected against XSS or cross-site scripting attacks. Because if you did something like hi, script, alert, I have your computer type thing, and you add that, now here, not too bad, but down here it's starting to break it. Now, unterminated string literal, so I'd have to mess around a bit more to actually exploit it. But what I'm doing is, if you look at things like inspect the page, down here, remember when we're dropping in the scripts here, this one, this. All right, so this is where you can start to go, actually, you could look at this initial state and you could say, actually, no, hi, you don't need to drop the scripts in there. What you need to do is close that, close that, close that, and then you can get it. So I might try something a bit more like close quote. So let's go hi, close quotes. Then I'm going to close the array, I'm going to close the parentheses, and now I'm still inside of the script. So let's go alert, hello, like this. So there. Now let's see if I can get this alert popping up. Oh, it's saving it a little bit for us already. So I need to play around a bit more, but the main thing to realize is that if you start to do this, where you're just dropping it in, you might have some problems. And the recommended solution from these ones here, so on the server-side rendering, it's got the security considerations. Also included this blog article, which had a good overview of the vulnerability. It's basically suggested bring in the serialized JavaScript. So before you do anything, start to drop in serialized JavaScript. So we're going to get this. Yarn add. And then in your code up here, you can go, I'm going to put this probably about here. And then before you do the JSON, you serialize. So here, serialize, and then you do the state. And then, you can do this is JSON true. Like so. I had a good example in this one, which was now you want to close the script tag because it already was commenting, it was escaping the quotes for us already. But yeah, so you can start to do that kind of thing. Now, that's there. So we should be able to go back to this. Now I've lost my wombats, but now if you start to put in things like hi, script, etc., then in here, it's going to be serializing all of that. Here you see how it's got the slashes and things in here, and it's got these codes in there to start to say, hey, let's make that HTML friendly. I think I restarted something. Interesting. See how when I've been messing like this, it works for the server-side rendering, but it disappears as soon as the initial state goes into it, so that when Redux fires up, it is overriding that for us. So it looks like server-side text did not match. Yep. So a bit more work needed to do there, but that serialize is the main way to approach to make it secure. So that is a sample solution. I'll pick up this last error and post that into the code, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. And yeah, have fun with the challenge. Feel free to watch the video and give it a whirl. And yeah, definitely rate Create React App and rate Nightmare and good technologies to play around with. So keep having fun.